Hey everybody, today we're going to figure out a way to make the ground move beneath our feet, even if we're sitting on 3 feet of concrete. Stand by. Hey everybody, I'm James. Welcome back to RATTLECAN Fab Shop. Today we're going to build a platform for our bass player to stand on in his position on our stage. You can use this in a church, you can use this in a club, you can use this anywhere that has what I call a dead stage. If you've got a stage that's that's hollow underneath, that's built on a wooden, like a traditional joist type of floor, if you've got enough low end in either your bass rig or your front of house system, then when he hits that top note, it is going to shake your teeth out. On a concrete floor, that doesn't happen. This particular stage is about a foot thick of concrete and rebar, and even though our subs are underneath the platform, you can't feel it at all. So if you're standing on the stage extensions on the front of it, it'll rattle your teeth out. But if you're standing back on the concrete, it doesn't, and that makes it difficult because of the inability of some of the lower end systems and your in-ear monitors to reproduce those really low frequencies. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a very shallow platform. It's going to house a transducer, and when the bass player plays his notes or the kick drum is hit on the trap set, then you will feel that through your feet, and that will augment what you're hearing in your in-ear monitors, and it makes life a whole lot easier. It's a fairly simple build. There's nothing really complicated about it. This is the first one that we're going to build like this, so let's just go give it a shot. So in the simplest terms, what we're going to do is we're going to take a signal from somewhere. It could be from a front of house feed, it could be from a pedal board, it could be from a line out of a amplifier. We're going to get a signal from somewhere, and what we're going to do is we're going to strip all of the high frequency out of that signal, and then we are going to pass the lows. We're going to utilize a low pass filter. So we're only going to pass what we want to feel, and what we're going to want to feel is probably the kick drum and then probably the bass, and then we will determine how deep our platform has to be. In this case, I'm going to start it out at about 4 inches. It'll probably end up a little bit shorter than that, and then we need to determine the overall size of it. So ours is going to be a 4 foot by 4 foot. That's a pretty decent sized platform to stand on. You can also put your pedal boards up on the front if that's kind of how you roll, or even off to the side. So what I'm using is I've got a sheet of this 1/2 inch finished, it's kind of an engineered plywood. It's got a fancy finish here on the outside. Why are we using that? Because we found it in a back room. It's not going to cost us anything. So we're just going to cut it in half. We're going to build this 4 foot by 4 foot platform, and then with the remainder of the wood, we are going to make some 4-inch strips. And we're going to do two things with those strips. We're going to make a perimeter. We're going to make it into a very shallow box, and then we're going to make it into a series of braces on the inside. It's going to make kind of a windmill pattern, and that way we're able to utilize as much of the wood that we've got. Like I said, we've got one sheet of plywood to do this with, and then we're just putting it together with I think it's 1.5 inch staples and Tight Bond 3, and then we'll put some reinforcing wood in the corners, and we'll see. I think it's I can tell you right now, having stood on it, it's pretty sturdy. So and again, this is a prototype, and if we have to go up to if we have to go up to 5/8, we could do that, but this is the way we're going to do it for now. So here I'm just using an offcut. I found the center of this platform, and that funny little shape in the middle is the outline of our transducer. And I arbitrarily picked a foot for the interior compartment size. Is that the right choice? You know, I don't know. We'll get some feedback from the guys as they play with it. I can tell you right now that there is a sweet spot. The top, because of where the walls of that box are at, the top doesn't vibrate across the whole thing. It only vibrates across like the center of it. So if you stand with your foot right over that transducer, man, it will put a thrill up your leg. But if you stand up to one side, you can still feel it, but it's certainly not as pronounced as it is if you're there in the middle. So, you know, if we do revision 2.0, we might move that out to 1.5 feet, or, you know, maybe even 2 feet. The great thing about this system is it's really inexpensive, and so, you know, you can afford to make a version 1, a version 1.1, a version 1.2 until you get it to the point that you like it. And then, you know, if your set design changes, then you just make another one. It's not a big huge deal. Give it a quick sanding because, well, you know, you got to make everything nice and smooth and keep the splinters out of your pretty hands. And then I'm actually going to drill out the mounting holes in this. It's just a cast aluminum casing. I want to use some bigger hardware, some 1/4-20 hardware to hold it on there. I've spared you the excitement of watching me put on drywall compound to fill all these nail holes. I drilled 4 holes, and we're using 1/4-20 bolts so that the heads will sit flush on the surface. And in order to get that mounted on there, I did have to flatten one side of each of those washers to accept that bigger bolt and washer compound. And then here's the fun part: is there's a rock in this. You can see the edge of that goes down. So I've got a high spot in there. So we're going to spend the next few minutes identifying where that brace is that's causing all of this hassle. And then it's just figuring it out, sanding it down, flipping it over, testing it out. You just do that until you get it right. So then you'll do a little bit of this, and then you'll do a little bit of this. This is just a couple of coats of primer to go on. Then you'll do a little bit of this, and then you'll do a little bit of this. And what I'm using here is a truck bed liner product. And that's going to give us a little bit of traction on top of this. I don't want anybody sliding around. Stupid stink bug. Anyways, I've secured this wire in here, and I've also taken some zip ties and gotten that secured up to the bottom. We don't want anything really rattling around in there. And now what we're going to do is I am going to put this high density foam 1/8 inch by 1/2 inch foam weather stripping, and I'm going to put it on the bottom of all of the wooden pieces, so that way it is the stage that it's going on to, it's an epoxy coated concrete stage, so it can be kind of slick. And what I don't want is somebody stepping on that and maybe, you know, stepping on the corner and then kicking that thing out. I want it to be fairly sturdy on that stage, because, you know, life's all fun and games until somebody falls down and, well, breaks their guitar, and then I have to fix it. All right, so what we got here is this is what kind of does all the work for this platform. So you have a couple of different ways that you can input stuff. You can bring it here from an amplifier, or as we're going to do in this case, you can use these RCA jacks and just run a line level in through it. and you have a couple of different things. You've got a crossover, and then you've got a gain. So what happens is you're going to input a signal in through this, and in this case, I'm using an app called Loops, and it just does drum tracks. And you can pick whichever one you want. I like the Levy Brakes one because it's a little more my style. So we're now going to input that signal into here. I've got my gain turned all the way down. This frequency, this is basically a high pass filter. Or a low pass filter. What it's going to do, it's from 40 to 180 hertz. This is the low rumbly stuff. This is your bass guitars and your kick drums. And if I remember correctly, we run a line from the front of house that has the kick drum and the bass channel. We run that into here, and then we can pass anything from 160 cycles down through this amp. So all the crispy stuff, all the vocals, all the hi-hats and stuff like that, that all never makes it through. Then there's an output pair on the back, and then we run that into our transducer. So we'll turn this on. I have power, and I've got the sick beats going on, and we'll crank the gain up. Now, of course, you're just standing on this. I'm trying to get all the rattling stuff off of here. You're just standing on this. And so, what's the big deal? Why are we building one of these? Because our stage has a cement stage. Our church has a cement stage. And it's, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet thick. And even though we have 4 very large subwoofers underneath the stage, you feel absolutely nothing. And if you're a bass player, you know, especially if you're used, like me, I'm always used to having a wedge, you know, Steve Harris style. It's the way I've always done it. So to go to in-ears, which don't exactly have the ability to reproduce low frequencies, especially in the cheap price range that most of us are working with, it becomes problematic to hear those lower frequencies. And if you are used to feeling the kick, or if you are used to feeling the bass line coming up through your feet, standing on cement is, it sucks. And so this is built so you got a 4x4 foot platform that you can stand on top of this, and you can feel every time that kick drum kicks, you can feel it. Now we're at 40 cycles and below, so it's taken just the very lowest of the low signal in here. And if I put my hand on here, I can feel it. I can feel it very well. And if I go up to 180 cycles, you get a little bit more, but you can fine tune that however you want to. So, of course, we got to put the RATTLECAN Fab Shop sticker and contact information on the back, and then I put who I made it for. This is made for Fearless Church here in Centerville, Ohio. So let's get all this stuff kind of moved around, and then we'll put it on the ground, and we'll give it a real world test. All right. So since this is brand new, I got my pretty socks on here. So I don't want to track this all up. We'll let them do that. So what I have is, this is a Yamaha MB3, little short scale bass, going into a Korg AX3000B bass pedal, and then I'm actually running through the headphone jack into our amp. The same one that, in fact, the same cable that I was using to have the phone plugged in. And so what I have you can hear it a little bit. But I could feel it better, especially if I have one foot right there. And then just for fun, if you want to practice, so I can hear that a little bit. I can feel that very well when I put my foot right here. This is the first one. We may experiment a little bit with the design. We may make this box that is surrounding this transducer bigger. If I do that, we'll have a bigger area. We'll have a bigger area for this to vibrate the floor with. Again, if you're on stage, even with in-ears like we are, you're not going to hear this. Your vocalist standing up there is not going to hear you going. They're not going to hear that. You're going to feel that. You are going to feel the kick from your drummer. And you're going to feel your own bass line. And if you are squashing one, if you're playing the wrong note, you're going to know it, because now you can feel it. You don't have to just depend on what you're getting through your in-ears. Now your in-ears and your vibratory system is working together. And there we go. We've got it installed. We're running I believe we're running a Sennheiser wireless instrument pack, and that goes into a tuner, and then that goes into a Sans amp. And we run that to the front of the house, and then we actually catch a return back to the stage, and then that goes into the platform. It's really easy to do. I'll put the equipment down below the sermon notes so you guys can take a look at it. Anyways, that's how we did it. As cheap as it is, I know we're going to experiment some more with it. I'm James. This is RATTLECAN Guitar Restorations. You guys have a good one. Cheers.
Hey, if you like this episode of RATTLECAN Guitar Restorations, you might want to check this video out as well. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, consider stepping over to our Patreon page and giving that a look. Y'all have a good weekend. Cheers.